The mining colony of Rathan 1-2 was a small, quiet world, an outpost built into rust-colored rock under a weak orange sun. It wasn't special. Only a few hundred miners lived there, working long hours to pull out the strange crystals that powered faster-than-light drives. They were tired, honest workers who just wanted their pay and some rest at the end of each day. Among them was Lena Soren, the colony's medical officer. Lena was young, no more than 26, but already a favorite among the rough aliens and tough humans who shared the colony. She was calm, kind, always smiling when others cursed the heat or the endless dust. Her clinic was small but clean, brightly lit with old Earth posters stuck on the walls. Mountain ranges, green forests, pictures no one on Rathan 1-2 had ever seen in person. Her patients called her Document. It was easier than remembering her full name. She didn't mind. When someone came in bleeding or coughing, she worked quietly, hands steady, voice soft. Even the aliens, huge, clawed, and loud, lowered their tone when she spoke. That day began like any other. The miners started early, and Lena made her rounds, checking the oxygen levels and handing out vitamins. The colony's communication screens flickered with news from the core systems. Peace treaties, trade routes, some political speech no one paid attention to. Everyone on Rathan 1-2 was too far away to care. But late in the day, a strange signal appeared on the scanners. The shift leader, a big man named Holt, frowned at it. "Unscheduled ship," he muttered. "Doesn't look like company traffic." He sent a query through the ComNet. No answer. The blip on the scanner grew closer, big enough to cast a shadow on the colony's upper dome. Within minutes, alarms began to ring. The ship that landed wasn't corporate or Terran. It was old, scorched from battle, its hull painted with a symbol no one wanted to see, the three-clawed spiral of the Vorn Collective. The miners froze at the sight. The Vorn were mercenaries, scavengers, killers for hire. They didn't visit colonies like this unless they wanted something. The ship's bay opened, releasing a hiss of toxic gas and a dozen armored aliens. They were tall, their skin gray and rough like stone, eyes glowing with pale red light. Each carried a plasma rifle. Rathan 1-2 colony. Their leader announced through a speaker mask. This outpost owes a collective payment for protection. The miners exchanged nervous looks. Holt stepped forward, trying to sound brave. "This is a civilian mining colony," he said. "We're under corporate contract with EarthGov. We don't need your protection." The Vorn commander tilted his head. "Then you will pay for denying it." Without warning, he hit Holt with the back of his gauntlet. The man crumpled. The alien stormed the colony plaza, shoving the miners into lines. Screams echoed through the dusty air. From her clinic, Lena heard the noise. She ran outside, her medical bag clutched to her chest. When she saw Holt on the ground, unconscious, she rushed him. "Please, he needs help," she cried. The Vorn soldiers turned to her, their masks reflecting her pale face. The leader grabbed her wrist roughly. "What is this one?" he sneered. "She's the doctor," one miner shouted. "She doesn't know anything. Let her treat him." But the Vorn weren't listening. One of them raised a scanner to her face. "Human," he said flatly. "Terran species." Their commander's eyes brightened. "Ah, the soft ones," he said, dragging her forward. "Let's see how soft." The miners begged him to stop. One threw a rock at a guard and was shot dead in an instant. The others froze, terrified. Lena struggled, but the alien held her easily. She looked around at her friends, their terrified faces lit by the red glow from the ship, and her breath caught. "You don't have to do this," she said, voice trembling. "There's no reason." "No reason." The commander leaned closer, his breath rattling through the mask. "There's always a reason. Fear is one. Payment is another." He motioned to his soldiers. They dragged her to the control tower, switching on the external camera feed, so the entire colony could see. One of the miners shouted, "No, don't do this." The Vorn made sure every broadcast in the colony transmitted the live feed, recording every second, every cry. Lena's voice shook but didn't break. "You will regret this," she whispered. "All of you." The commander chuckled. "We fear no one." When the feed suddenly cut to static, silence fell across the colony. The Vorn soldiers walked back out, calm, as if nothing had happened. A dead stillness hung over Rathan 1-2. Holt woke a few minutes later, face bruised, and saw the looks on everyone's faces. Someone showed him the frozen image on the screen, the moment before the signal died. Holt stared at it for a long time. Then he walked to the comm tower, bleeding hand gripping the console. He opened a private channel and sent the recording to Earth Command's secure frequency. It was a desperate act, the kind miners were told never to attempt. The wave burst through subspace, a short, jagged message tag with the colony's coordinates. In the transmission log, it was marked with a simple title: Incident Report, Rathan 1-2, Civilian Casualty, Human Victim. When Holt finished sending it, he slumped in his chair, shaking. The other miners stood behind him silently, staring at the stars above their dome. They didn't know where the message would go or who would hear it. But far away, hidden deep beneath the red soil of Mars, quiet machines began to wake. A low, steady pulse traveled through the network of satellites and defense grids. The words, Project Reaper, authorization pending, appeared on a dark screen. On Earth, in a room filled with shadows, a single admiral looked down at the message replaying again and again, the sound of a human woman pleading for mercy. He did not speak. He did not look away. And when the feed went dark for the last time, he spoke one quiet order: wake them. The miners of Rathan 1-2 didn't see the signal that left Earth that night, but the rest of the galaxy would. And they would learn the meaning of those 3 words very soon. In the deepest layer of military command beneath the city of Geneva, Earth's defense net never slept. It listened. Every whisper, every coded beacon, every cry for help crossing the stars arrived through these silent rooms. But the signal from Rathan 1-2 was different. It wasn't routed through the usual trade relays. It came jagged, raw, as if it had been punched through space by desperation alone. The duty officer who caught it first thought it was simple pirate interference. Then the video played, and the chatter in the room stopped. A human woman, wearing a white medical coat, framed by smoke and alien claws. The final seconds cut to static. For a moment, the room was filled only with a faint hum of power cores. The officer called for a superior. Within minutes, the feed transferred up the chain, through encrypted lines straight to Earth Command's Central Council. Inside a dark conference chamber, the recording played again, grainy, low resolution, but clear enough to show pain no one could fake. The senior brass stood in silence. No one spoke, no one shifted. Earth had seen wars before, but this was personal. High Admiral Marcus Tran, head of covert operations, leaned forward. His face stayed calm, but his fists clenched slowly. The holographic screen flickered with Lena's image, frozen mid-motion. This was a medical officer. One colonel said quietly, voice shaking. A volunteer, not even military, just a civilian working relief on a colony. What's the current presence in that sector? The admiral asked. None, sir, replied another officer. No fleets, no patrols for 2 jumps. It's outside official jurisdiction. Tran nodded slowly, eyes never leaving the image. Then he spoke 5 words, each one sharp as a blade. Activate the Silent Reapers. Level 3 protocol. The officers shifted uneasily. Level 3 wasn't standard retaliation. It wasn't even war. It was total erasure. Sir, one officer began. Tran turned his gaze on him, and whatever protest man had died in his throat. Has humanity forgotten? Tran asked quietly. Our mercy is our strength, yes, but only while it's respected. They hurt one of ours. Now they'll remember why peace with Earth is sacred. He stood, turning toward the vast window that overlooked the city below. In the distance, the sky shimmered with orbital lights, dozens of satellites watching silently from above. Send the command string, he said, across the solar system. Machines heard him. Beneath the red plains of Mars, deep under a mountain called Ares Rift, a secure vault came alive for the first time in 12 years. Rows of containment pods hissed open, releasing cold steam. Inside each pod was a figure, tall, armored, half human, half machine. They didn't breathe, didn't blink. They just waited for the signal. In orbit, stealth cruisers shifted course. They bore no flags, no registration tags, just matte black holes eating light. Their engines fired soundlessly, and they began to vanish from Earth sensors one by one, leaving faint trails of ionized blue behind them. They had no names, only numbers. The central AI overseeing their deployment was called Reaper Command, an artificial intelligence bound by one doctrine: absolute retaliation for the defense of humanity. Through a stream of data, orders rushed from Earth to Mars, from Mars to the void fleets hidden far beyond Neptune. The stars burned faintly over command screens as code after code completed authentication. Reaper Net online. Subject deployment. Approved. Mission classification. Justice bound. On the other side of the galaxy, the Vorn Collective had no idea what was coming. Their massive carrier vessel, Black Fong, hovered lazily over a red dwarf star. It was an ugly ship, all jagged plates welded over older hulls from countless stolen vessels. To them, it was a trophy of their power, proof that they could take anything they wanted. Inside the Vorn command deck, their leader, Jorketh, laughed with his soldiers. They replayed the footage of Lena's capture like it was entertainment. One of them joked about selling her medical implants for scrap parts. Jorketh leaned back in his throne of steel, his voice low and sharp. Humans talk peace because they have none of the strength they brag about. The rest of his crew cheered in approval. Their scanners picked up a few freighters entering nearby space, but ignored them. Just smugglers or traders, they assumed. Hours later, one of those scanners went dead. Then another. Jorketh frowned. Status: some interference, maybe solar radiation, his technician said. We'll recalibrate. But the interference grew stronger. Communications with their nearby outpost stopped. The NAV systems glitched briefly, each sensor sweep blinking out as though something massive passed between them and the star. Then the lights dimmed. Backup power engaged, the technician muttered. Something's draining the grid. The bridge suddenly went dark, all screens flickering to black. What's happening? Jorketh roared. A cold mechanical voice filled the air. Judgment protocol initialized. That was the last transmission the Black Fong ever sent. Back on Earth, Admiral Tran stood before a vast holographic projection displaying a map of the Orion sector. Red dots marked Vorn-occupied space. One by one, those dots began to change, turning from bright red to a dull gray. The Reapers had started their work. The Admiral's aide, a young officer, hesitated before asking, "Sir, are we to report this to the Council?" The full action. Tran shook his head. No need. By the time the Council finishes debating morality, the Reapers will already be home. The aide tried to hide his unease. Everyone in Earth Command had heard stories of the Silent Reapers, machines created during the Siege Wars, programmed to appear, strike, and vanish without a whisper. They weren't part of any government. They answered only to Earth's hidden directive, to ensure no one ever forgot what happened to those who dare harm a human. Tran clasped his hands behind his back. Do you know why they're called silent? The aide blinked. Because they don't communicate, sir? No, Tran said quietly. Because none of their enemies ever do again. 3 days later, the first whispers reached the core systems. Vorn merchant ships failed to arrive. Their colonies sent distress calls that looped endlessly before ending mid-sentence. Satellite images showed drifting debris around what once had been the Vorn Central Station. Alien news networks speculated about natural disasters or rebellion, but older civilizations, the ones who remembered mankind's distant wars, understood instantly. The Terrans had awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. And though Earth remained silent, its broadcast normal, its diplomats polite, the message was clear to everyone who looked out into the stars. Something was coming. Something built for silence, vengeance, and the defense of humankind. The galaxy started to hold its breath. Because when humans stopped talking, someone, somewhere, was about to be erased. Far from Earth's sun, in a lonely orbit around a red dwarf star, the Black Fong drifted like a predator at rest. To passing ships, it looked like a fortress too ugly to fear, an old warship patched together from 10 different wrecks. The Vorn Collective believed that made them untouchable. They had taken what they wanted from smaller civilizations for years, and no one had dared to strike back. That was about to change. In the command bay, Captain Jorketh grinned as a hologram of the Orion trade routes hovered before him. By next cycle, he said, we control every mining stretch from here to Delta Orion. Even those soft human outposts will pay us protection fees. His crew cheered. The Vorn respected only power. They thought humanity's politeness was a weakness. Their laughter echoed through the steel halls, deep, harsh tones that mixed with the hum of old engines and the smell of burnt coolant. They toasted to their latest victory. The raid on tiny Rathan 1-2. Humans, one soldier joked. Break like wet paper. The deck burst with laughter. Only one officer, a younger Vorn named Ref, stayed quiet. He had never liked what they did to the human medic. When he watched the old recording again, he could not meet her eyes. But Jorketh noticed. You doubt our work, Ref, the captain sneered. And no, Commander, Ref said quickly. We've heard things about Earth's armies. Jorketh's laugh shook the walls. A myth told by frightened traders. They hide behind treaties and kind words. They don't have the will to come out this far. He was still laughing when the room's lights blinked once, twice, and stayed dim. Power fluctuation. One engineer barked. Rerouting grid. Too much interference lately, another said. Then all their external screens went static. Outside the ship, the void was not empty anymore. Something dark slid across the curve of the red dwarf's light. Several things, moving with perfect precision. They didn't appear on sensors. The Black Fong scan showed only empty starfield. If someone looked directly from a viewport, they might have seen faint silver shapes like knife blades against the stars, but only for a moment before those shapes disappeared again. The first report came from Deck 12. Commander! A voice screamed over comms. We! Then only silence. Jorketh slammed a clawed hand down. Find out what? The bridge doors shut suddenly. Red warning lights flared. The air system changed pitch. In the distance, metal screeched. Crew members ran to reopen the doors, but the panels sparked under their hands. A strange signal began cycling through every control line, a pulse pattern of numbers none of them recognized. Someone's inside our systems, the engineer shouted. They're rewriting commands. Who? Jorketh roared. No one's near us. A chilling voice came through the comm channel. Mechanical, calm, almost gentle. Unauthorized operation detected. Judgment pending. The sound made even hardened Vorn step back from their consoles. The captain's face tightened into a snarl. Show yourself, coward. Static responded. A kilometer away, cloaked in visual dampers, 3 silent Reaper cruisers hovered just beyond the Black Fong. Their hulls absorbed light. Even the red dwarf behind them looked dimmer. Inside, black-armored operators watched from behind mirrored visors, their faces hidden beneath breathing masks. No one spoke unless necessary. Orders came as short code burst through neural links. The fleet's AI, Reaper Command, guided every movement. Phase 1 complete, the AI intoned. Enemy vessel isolated. Boarding units prepare. In the drop bay, silent troops fastened their boots, checked their rifles, and engaged the cloaking fields woven into their armor. A young operator glanced at the mission brief streaming across her visor. Justice bound. Civilian target, Lena Soren. For a fraction of a second, she felt a pang of emotion. Anger, maybe sorrow, but trained discipline smothered it. They were the hands of Earth's silent will, not ordinary soldiers. Drop authorized, the AI said. The bay floor opened, and the dark figures vanished into the void. Back on the Black Fong, Ref leaned close to the screen. Sir, movement outside range. I think something's there. Before Jorketh could answer, every light across the command deck went black. Darkness swallowed everything. Then came a single, sharp clang from the upper hull. Another, closer. Something walked across the ship's skin, each step measured and heavy. The Vorn grabbed their weapons. Intruders. Bullets meant nothing against what came next. The ceiling exploded inward, and shadows dropped silently through the opening, human-shaped but much too fast. Red and white flashes filled the room. Jorketh fired his rifle wildly. The burst ricocheted off armor that looked like midnight metal streaked with faint blue veins of light. Not a single Reaper made a sound. They moved through the thick smoke like ghosts. One of them grabbed a Vorn and slammed him against the terminal, leaving a smear of scorched metal where the plasma edge sliced through armor. Reth tried to crawl under a console. He heard one of the intruders pause beside him. For a heartbeat, he wondered if he would die too. The figure looked down, faceless under the dark visor, then spoke in a whisper through the calm static. "Not you. You watched." And the Reaper vanished into the corridor. Within minutes, the Black Fawn was silent. The power core collapsed, shutting down weapons, communications, everything. The Reapers left the ship drifting, its lights flickering weakly like a heartbeat of a dying giant. Rest stood alone on the bridge, every console dead. He walked to the captain's chair, where Jorketh slumped forward, helmet shattered, chest burned through. Beyond the viewport, the darkness seemed to breathe. Reth's hand trembled as he sent a final distress signal to any Vorn vessel within range. "This is Reth of the Black Fawn. We're under..." He paused, staring at the motionless void. "Under judgment," he finished softly. Moments later, the Reaper ships decloaked for just a second, enough to identify themselves to Earth Command. Brilliant blue lines flashed across their hulls like silent lightning. Then a pulse of white light swallowed the Black Fawn. When the light faded, there was nothing left but drifting shards of metal. 2 hours later, a Vorn listening station at the edge of the system detected the explosion and recorded the faint remnants of a code transmission before it vanished. Reaper Command, Objective 1 accomplished. Continuing operation chain. Silence maintained. In the human sector, Admiral Marcus Tran received the confirmation on his private console. He watched the short feed without expression. His aide asked cautiously, "Should we inform Central Command?" Tran's answer was quiet. "Not yet. They'll see the results soon enough." He turned off the screen and looked out over Earth's night sky, glittering with satellites. "Let the stars learn," he said under his breath. "When you strike one of ours, you'll never know where the next blow comes from." Behind him, the faint hum of command transmitters carried the next set of coordinates into deep space. The Reapers were already on the move, and somewhere out there, more Vorn warlords slept, unaware that their time had begun to run out. The galaxy didn't notice it right away. There wasn't an explosion big enough to see. No warning, no radio demand, no declaration of war. Only faint trails of dust where Vorn ships used to patrol. In the trade routes and border stations, whispers began to grow. Something is killing the collective. Their ships vanish without distress calls. A ghost fleet moves through the dark. At first, no one believed it. Every empire had its ghost stories. But when 6 Vorn warbands stopped responding within the same solar cycle, the laughter ended. The hunt had begun. On the barren world of Kesh 9, the Vorn mined rare magnetic ores to power their cannons. Towers of smoke rose from deep tunnels where prisoners and workers sweated under gunfire. The local overseer, Roskveth, was a proud brute, second only to Jorketh before news of the Black Fawn's destruction reached him. He read the report 3 times, convinced it was a lie. Destroyed without battle? No survivors? Vorn ships were not easy targets. Even the Terrans during the old wars had taken months to crack one. He grunted and threw the datapad aside. "Parasite traders trying to scare us," he growled. Outside, the night sky shimmered with electrical storms. The wind carried fine ash, glowing with static blue sparks. His soldiers joked loudly to drown out their nerves. They didn't see the small black shapes entering their atmosphere high above. No thruster trails, no descent flames, just silent drops of darkness against the stars. Far above Kesh 9, the Reaper fleet was already in motion. In orbit hovered 3 ships, Ghostline 1, Execution Wing, and Soul Vigil, each commanded by a hybrid intelligence that merged human instinct with machine logic. They communicated by light, pulses invisible to organic eyes. No radio chatter, no detection. Inside the ships, the Reaper strike teams prepared. A young operative named Ari Denar stood among them. She was once a Marine before volunteering for the Augmented Reaper Unit, a decision that erased her identity from all official records. Her old name didn't exist anymore. She was Reaper 9-2 now. In the drop chamber, she checked her weapon systems. Blue indicator lights flickered across her black armor. The AI voice within her helmet whispered brief instructions. Primary objective, neutralize command structure on Kesh 9. Secondary, data retrieval. No survivors outside target list. Ari replied with a single word. Understood. Standing beside her was Reaper 1-6, his massive frame almost filling the chamber. Each of them could withstand vacuum, plasma, and radiation longer than most ships could operate. They were part human, part myth. Human while trapped inside living metal. The doors opened with a hiss, revealing the curve of Kesh 9 below. Endless sand streaked with pale lightning. Release came the command. They jumped. Kesh 9's surface was chaos before dawn. Roskveth woke to the sound of power alarms. The ground shook as if the sky itself had burst. The first explosion tore through the main tower, severing communication links. Attackers! Surface assault! A soldier screamed over the intercom. The Vorn rushed to their weapons. But the enemy didn't fight like anything they'd seen. Their radar showed nothing, yet soldiers vanished in flashes of blue and white. The camp sirens wailed as shadows moved among them. Reapers slicing to metallic dust storms. Ari landed amid a storage yard filled with mining mechs. Her boots sank into ash. She could hear faint clicks as automatic rifles locked onto her position. Targets acquired, whispered the AI. 8 Vorn gunners emerged from the storm, weapons drawn. They fired blind. The blast scattered dust where she'd been, but she was already moving. Her rifle hummed once, silent bursts of ion rounds cutting through the nearest 3. The rest dropped their guns and tried to flee. Failure to surrender accepted, the AI said coldly. Ari felt no mercy, only purpose. When the gunfire ended, nothing moved except the wind blowing over smoking metal. She turned to her side, where another Reaper knelt beside a glowing panel built into the ground, an access point to the planet's data core. "Crack it," she ordered. A soft voice came through the armor comms. Reaper 1-6, calm and deliberate. "Encryptions are old. Pathetic." Within seconds, the data feed unlocked, displaying the network map of Vorn operations, supply lines, shipyards, financial codes. Everything the collective had hidden. "Upload to Reaper Command," Ari said. A shimmer passed through the air as the transmission jumped through invisible satellites back toward Earth's secret grid. The rest of the complex fell within an hour. High-orbit sensors watching from nearby outposts caught only flashes of blue light, then static. The entire mining fleet on Kesh 9 went offline. Survivors were almost non-existent. But in one of the fortresses, Roskveth managed to seal himself inside a lower bunker. He panted heavily, his thick fingers scraping across the controls. "They're ghosts!" he shouted into the comm device. "They don't answer." "They—" The door buckled behind him with a hollow clang. Ross spun around, claws ready. A figure stood in the doorway. A tall silhouette, cold light outlining an armored frame. "Please," he shouted. "I can pay. Tell your masters I can pay tribute." "I—" The figure stepped closer. Its visor reflected Rosk's terrified face. "You tortured a healer," said a voice, calm as static. "You hurt a human." Rosk's breath caught. How could you know?" The Reaper lifted its weapon, a thin blade glowing with red heat. "We remember everything," it said. "We never forget our own." The blade fell. When the dust settled, the planet Kesh 9 was empty of Vorn command. Machines shut down, mind silent. From space, it looked untouched, except for faint scorch marks near the poles, evidence of orbital precision strikes. Admiral Tran received the transmission at dawn Earth time. On his command screen appeared one simple report. "Mission Chain 04, complete. All hostiles terminated. Data recovered." He watched the stars on a navigation map shift as Reaper fleets moved deeper into Vorn territory, like storm fronts. He thought about Lena Soren, the girl who never fought, who only wanted to heal others, and the hell that humans could unleash when kindness was mistaken for weakness. His aide approached. "Sir, alien broadcasts are reacting. They demand an explanation." Tran smiled faintly. "Let them demand. They won't get one. He looked out through his window at the blue curve of Earth, so thin and peaceful against the black. Every species remembers its monsters, he murmured. They just forgot ours. He turned away as new orders were transmitted. Further targets designated. All hidden Vorn fleets scheduled for elimination. In the silence between signal bursts, the galaxy trembled again without knowing why. And somewhere deep in the void, the silent Reapers continued their hunt, wordless, relentless, and human to the very core. Rumors of burning worlds and vanishing fleets spread fast across the galaxy. The Vorn Collective, once proud warlords, suddenly feared the dark between stars. In Geneva Dome, Admiral Marcus Tran reviewed the latest transmission from the Silent Reapers. Kesh 9 erased. No civilians. No witnesses. Authorize a final strike, he ordered. End the collective. Deep in the Eridan Rift, the Vorn flagship Iron Spire hid behind debris and silence. Warlord Tark Lesh tried to sound confident, but even his bridge crew flinched at shadows that weren't there. Then gravity twisted. The first sign. Black ships appeared out of nothing, their hulls swallowing light. No negotiations followed. White plasma burned through escorts faster than alarms could sound. Lesh screamed, "Launch every fighter." Nothing launched. Every channel filled with a calm human voice. "This is Earth Command. Leave this signal as your final sound." The Reapers boarded. Ari Denar, Reaper 9-2, moved through the corridors like a shifting shadow. Vorn weapons melted before her. On the bridge, Lesh swung a blade in desperation. The Reaper caught his throat and lifted him easily. "You tortured a healer," she said. "Now face hers." A flash of blue, then silence. Only one warlord, Verna Krell, lived long enough to whisper, "I told them you'd come." "Remember this," the Reaper replied, vanishing just before the reactor went critical. From the rift, the flagship bloomed into white light and was gone. Earth Command received the final message. "Reaper Command, Objective 0 complete." Tran closed the report, eyes on the peaceful curve of Earth beyond his window. "They'll call us monsters," he murmured. "Good. Some monsters keep the peace." And across 1,000 worlds, the lesson echoed. Hurt one human, and Earth will answer. The galaxy never heard them leave. The Silent Reapers departed the Eridan Rift the same way they had come, without flash, without sound, without triumph. The wreckage of the Vorn fleet drifted silently through space, spinning fragments of metal where an empire had once ruled. In that endless black, the stars shone cleaner, colder. The Reaper ships faded into stealth, their engines barely whispering as they slipped into hyperspace. Within their holds, the soldiers rested upright in suspension pods, armor still scorched from battle. They didn't speak, didn't celebrate. For them, victory felt the same as sleep. Back on Earth in the quiet heart of Geneva Dome, the war had already become a rumor. Official channels called the Vorn collapse a series of internal conflicts. News outlets spoke about mysterious trade disruptions. Citizens of Earth sipped coffee, stared at their morning screens, unaware that humanity had just erased a species from the stars. In command, Admiral Marcus Tran stood before the central window as dawn brushed pale light across the city's curved glass. Below him, transport drones hummed peacefully, ferrying workers to their shifts. It looked harmless, ordinary, the world he had sworn to keep safe. The door behind him opened. His aide, Lieutenant Kuraway, entered quietly. "It's done, sir. Reaper fleets are returning to the Vault orbit," Way said. "Project Reaper shutting down within the hour." Tran nodded slowly. "No losses. 2 damage, nothing permanent. AI net intact." The Admiral let out a long breath. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel the weight of command presses quite as hard. Still, he couldn't shake the faint echo of Lena Soren's voice from that first recording. The fear, the courage. She had been one small person on Forgotten World, yet her death had turned the galaxy's balance upside down. "Archive every detail," he ordered. "Seal all access. Their service will never appear in history books." Way hesitated. "Sir, some think the truth should be known. It might keep others afraid to strike at us again." Tran shook his head. Fear fades. Myths last longer. Let the galaxy imagine monsters. It's safer that way. Across the solar system, hidden bases opened their docking bays for returning ships. The Reapers came in silence, sliding into the red dust caverns under Mars, the steel tunnels under Europa, and the orbital cradles of Mercury's dark side. Their hulls bore the marks of plasma burns and alien fire, but no damage reached the cold precision of their routines. Inside the Mars vault, massive steel doors ground shut behind the last cruiser. Begin hibernation protocol, commanded the central AI. Pods lit up across the chamber, blue light cascading down endless rows. One by one, the soldiers stepped inside, their helmets retracting for the first time since deployment. Faces, human faces, emerged, some scarred, some too young, all expressionless. Among them was Ari Denar, Reaper 9-2. She walked her pod slowly, the weight of silence pressing in. Her armor disengaged piece by piece with soft clicks until only the dark bodysuit remained. In the reflection of the pod's glass, she saw her own eyes for the first time since the mission, gray, tired, uncertain. She whispered softly, "All for one life." The AI responded in its neutral hum. Humanity does not forget. Ari stepped into the pod. Cold mist filled the chamber as the lock sealed. Weeks later, out beyond the colony of New Hybris, a merchant freighter passed close to the ruins of the old Vorn shipyard. The cruise scanners flickered with strange readings, massive empty forms drifting in the dark. They powered down, wanting to avoid whatever was there, but something unexpected appeared on their private channel. A short transmission, simple and clear. "Do not fear. The dead are silent." Then static. The merchant captain swore and turned the ship around, heading straight back toward Federation space. By the time his report reached the interspecies networks, panic had already spread. Some believed the Reapers still prowled. Others said they'd gone home, waiting beneath Mars for the next call. Either way, the message was the same. Leave humanity alone. On Earth, Admiral Tran attended a quiet ceremony. In a small park not far from Geneva Dome, a handful of people gathered before a new monument. A single stone carved with the image of Caduceus, the symbol of healing. It was Lena Soren's memorial. Her parents stood hand in hand as Tran bowed respectfully. They didn't know what had happened out there, only that Earth had promised justice. Her mother said softly, "It doesn't bring her back, but it helps." Tran smiled gently. She saved more lives than she could ever know. They looked puzzled, but he said nothing further. Words would not explain it. The world didn't need to understand the noise that had echoed through the stars for her sake. That night, Tran returned to the command tower. The building was nearly empty. The hum of power lines was the only sound. He stood once more by the great window, watching thin clouds drift over the curved earth. He remembered another officer asking him, years ago, what it meant to wield such hidden power. He had answered, "It means to guard peace so carefully that no one sees the sword." Now, as the sky brightened toward morning, he believed it again. The Reapers had done their duty. Humanity's image across the galaxy would stay calm, reasonable, civilized. But deep down, every alien state, every warlord, would remember how quickly silence could turn into storm. He raised a glass of water to the empty room. "Sleep well, ghosts," he said quietly. "When the next fool forgets, I'll wake you again." He turned off the lights. The city below glowed gold and blue, peaceful and unsuspecting. Somewhere under Martian rock, the endless hum of the vault softened. Lights dimmed one by one, until the whole structure lay dark. The last words of the AI flickered across silent terminals before fading. "Project Reaper, status, dormant. Awaiting signal." Far out in the deep black, beyond every sensor and border, a single satellite drifted between the stars, humming faintly. It carried no crew, no weapons, just one stored message encrypted for eternity. She was one of ours. And across the cold reaches of space, the galaxy trembled a little, because everyone knew what those words meant. Humanity was quiet again. For now,